Sunday mornings at 8:30 on WSIC. Be informed and inspired with teachings from the Word of God by Pastor Wesley Morris. Sunday mornings at 8:30 on WSIC.
The following is a paid program and does not necessarily reflect the views of WSIC.
It's 11:06 on WSIC News Radio, and you're listening to We're Just Saying with Senator Vicki Sawyer and David. I'd like to be part of the show, 844 Studio 4. We are streaming live on the WSIC News app and all other socials in between. Senator Sawyer, it's so good to be back with you.
I am so glad to hear. What did I misspoke one time when I called it the dulcimers of David?
You said the dulcimers.
Dulcimers of David. I'm so glad to hear the dulcet tones.
Yes. Dulcimers. You're smart.
See, self-deprecating humor. It gets you every time, doesn't it?
It does. It absolutely does. But no, I'm thrilled to be back. It's like I've been traveling like 5 straight weeks and haven't been able to be here with you. But I have heard that you have been killing it. Many people lamenting if I was should I even come back?
Oh, come on,
based
David.
off just off the way that you've just been just setting radio records all over the place.
I know it's election season, so as politicians really are kind of vulnerable. So, but you don't have to pump me up like that. I'm good. I promise you. I have missed you terribly. We've had some great guests, missed you terribly, and we've also had some horrible news.
Yeah, the Hurricane Helene obviously seeing the devastation up in the western North Carolina mountains and everything like that. I actually drove up there on Monday.
I wanted you to tell the listeners about that because you are from Candler.
I'm from Candler.
Candler.
Yeah, if you're going up I-40 and you get to exit 44, a left takes you to Asheville, a right takes you through Candler.
Yeah.
And just before you get to Canton. So yeah, I'm from that area, grew up in that area, still have family up in that area. So I've been watching it, with a lot of concern, everything going on up there. But did drive up there with my wife, loaded up a bunch of supplies and stuff like that for my family. Drove up there. Honestly, the travel up was a lot easier than I thought it would be. Mm-hmm. I had to go all the way down 85 and hit 26 down in South Carolina and go up, but both lanes on 26 were open. I'd heard only one was. So, but both lanes were open, and it was amazing just from, the bottom of the mountain going up to the top, just the level of devastation just increased and increased and increased. Down trees, washed away pieces of road, no lights on, at these gas stations and stuff like that, no power there. And then when I actually got up into Asheville and started in Fletcher, met my family off the Fletcher exit to give them their supplies, and there was lines going all the way down the interstate for the one gas station that had gas off that exit. People trying to get in there, and then went on into Asheville to check on my uncle's sister who lives in an assisted living place, and was able to navigate it pretty easily. The main roads were fine, but just when you got through and started looking at there's just no way to describe it.
Right.
I likened it to a war zone. Honestly, just buildings obliterated completely. Drove by and saw a little bit of Biltmore Village from the interstate, and just growing up there and just Biltmore Village was just a place that we always went. There was a great Mexican restaurant there back when I was a kid, and a lot of shopping through there. Just a really cool area of Asheville, wiped out. And really just surreal to see everything. And then as you got further west, we didn't go any further west, but it continually got worse. Going through talking to my uncle. So fortunately, my family is safe. Right.
Yeah.
I mean, my dad always says things can be replaced, people can't. So I've been very fortunate that all of my family's been safe, but not other people have not been as lucky, and so it's been really bad.
So I went up on Monday and dropped off a load and a half of water in Hendersonville, and then went out and worked at a private site where just some local folks had gotten together with water and all kinds of supplies, and so I helped them deliver that water or hand it out to people who could make it out. And that was also an airdrop where the National Guard was dropping off people who had been rescued from Bat Cave and Chimney Rock. And I just sitting there, and I watched that woman get off the plane or off the helicopter, and she kind of just labored over to walk to the curb just to sit down. And she picked up the phone. First time she'd been able to call her husband. She'd been stuck on the mountain, and her children. And just watching that raw human emotion, it gets me. And all I could do was hug her, right? Yeah. Because you just sit there and you're like, oh my God, what did you just go through? She said, and I know there's a million of those stories, so it's so sad. But I think that hope lives eternal with me about the kindness of the people in our area. I worked in Statesville Airport. I hope to go back there this afternoon. for a full day of pulling stuff out of cars so that it could get flown or driven into that area. And just the amount of people who were just working really hard to make sure we could get those airplanes. I think there's been over maybe 400 flights come out of Statesville since they've started this. And it's just seeing the overwhelming support of folks with their generosity with, money or, the things that they could buy. I actually said I was going to go to Costco because I was pretty sure there was no more water left in all of Mooresville because of so much water that had been donated. But I'm just proud of our community for coming together. I'm not proud of our government response. I'll be honest with you. Understanding that anytime there is this type of calamity, it's always going to be just jointed at the first, right? That's actually frustrating in itself too. But then hearing firsthand accounts of the FFA telling pilots or helicopter pilots, you have to get out of here. I was frustrated that the president came to look at the damage in Asheville. I understand that point, but the problem is that when he came in, there's a 50-mile radius no-fly zone around Air Force One or whatever it was that he was flying in at the time. So the folks on the ground in Statesville, they were having to redivert all of these flights to accommodate for Biden. And I'm like, dude, you can get the information you need without having to do a political stunt show to go down there and with the governor and do that. And then, I was frustrated with the governor. We should have asked for help from the feds a lot sooner. In fact, some of our senator friends were on the phone with folks in the governor's office saying, call the man, call the troops. We have some of the most talented, resourceful, military footprint in North Carolina who actually go and do these types of rebuilds in other nations. And they're just a couple hours down the road. Why are we not deploying those resources? Proud of the National Guard. They got on top of it when they could, but it just not now. Now is not the time to criticize. But also wanted to communicate that I do hear those concerns, and I'm committed along with a lot of others of us to make sure that moving forward in case of we have these disasters, which we will, we're North Carolina, right? How do we do better? Like right now, if you want to bring a load of, I don't know, I was talking to a local hospital and they had a team of RNs and doctors and medical supplies, and they wanted to get up there because it's needed. Well, no one would call them back. Well, the only way to contact them is you have to literally send an email to the, emergency management system. And then those folks are overwhelmed. So how do the emails get escalated? There's an app for that. I'm sure somewhere that there can be an AI app generated that would take in all of this goodwill and information and then sort it out and deploy resources in the way. But because the non-response, then people are just cowboying up, which I'm glad that they are, and getting stuff into. So I heard this morning that those folks who have been doing private deliveries, FEMA will come by and take that stuff, and because they think that they should be the central repository of the aid. But really, you can take those to churches, and churches they cannot come in and take the church's stuff. And we have a firsthand account coming back after the break. Senator Warren Daniel lives in Morganton, Burke County area, and he wanted to call in and talk a little bit about his experiences with Hurricane Helene. Yeah, absolutely. And also one thing to remember is, we're in the, immediate aftermath. They'll be without water. Some estimates are for a month. Some areas will be without water. Winter is coming.
And winter is coming. And so, I know everybody's outpouring right now, but it's going to have to keep going.
Yeah.
You're listening to We're Just Saying on WSIC News. We'll be right back.
There's more We're Just Saying with North Carolina Senator Vicki Sawyer on the way from 105.9, 100.7 WSIC.
Well, for the first time in a long time, we don't really have much to talk about in the weather department. And boy, isn't that nice. Mainly dry for a long time. Partly cloudy. We're up around 80 this afternoon, falling back into the mid-60s overnight. Our weekend is a dry one, but it's a warm and humid one, too. With temperatures around 80, if not some low 80s both days. But if you've been in search of that crisp fall air, it's on the way. Early next week. It arrives by Tuesday. That's your forecast from the WSIC Weather Center. Meteorologist Chase Myers.
The WSIC app is available now wherever you get your apps, featuring local deals from great local businesses, like Top Notch Gutters of Statesville.
Here is your WSIC community calendar. Brookdale Village in Huntersville presents their free concert series Live Under the Oaks on Friday. The Village is open all day for shopping and dining, with Ben Gatling taking the stage powered by Waves Entertainment at 6 p.m. Bring your chairs and enjoy on-site beverages from Red Rocks. Live Under the Oaks with Ben Gatling kicks off at 6 p.m. Friday. The popular Piedmont Healthcare Friday After 5 concert series offers free entertainment to residents, neighbors, and visitors in downtown Statesville. This Friday, the Megan Doss concert will be held on West Broad Street in front of Mitchell Community College from 6 p.m. to 8:30. Beer, wine, soft drinks, and food will be available for purchase beginning at 5 p.m. Bring your chairs and enjoy a night of music from country singer Megan Doss at Friday After 5 in downtown Statesville. NASCAR returns to Charlotte Motor Speedway for their annual fall weekend in October on the Roval. The Xfinity Series holds the Drive for the Cure 250 on Saturday, October 12th. The Cup Series competes in the Bank of America Roval 400 on Sunday, October 13th. Weekend ticket packages as well as daily tickets are available. Also check out deals for military service members, college students, suites, the Champions Pavilion, the Indoor Clubhouse, Terrace Box, 4-packs, and more. Don't miss any of the entertainment, including Eli Young Band and Tim Duggar concerts before racing's royalty duels for Roval supremacy. Visit CharlotteMotorspeedway.com for information, tickets, and details. To keep up with all the events happening around the community and much more, including amazing local deals, download the WSIC News app today.
The Renaissance Festival is back Saturdays and Sundays, October 5th through November 24th. Eat, drink, be merry at the Renaissance Festival. Tickets available online only at renfestinfo.com. Don't miss it.
Now back to We're Just Saying with North Carolina Senator Vicky Sawyer on 105.9, 100.7 WSIC.
Welcome back to We're Just Saying on WSIC News Radio with Senator Vicky Sawyer and David. We're going right into our segment right now. Vicky, would you like to introduce our guest?
I do. Senator Warren Daniel, he is our neighbor to the west, so obviously he's been heavily affected by Hurricane Helene, but I want to give you a little bit of background so you'll know what kind of character, amazing character this man has. Of course, born in Burke County, Eagle Scout. He graduated with West Point with a Bachelor's of Science in National Security and Public Affairs, so he's kind of has a background in all this stuff. He has served our country for the 6 years as second lieutenant in the Army Field Artillery, and he also, I didn't realize this until I read his bio, is assistant professor of military science at Utah State University. But all that to say, he and his family, he's a lawyer in Morganton, married to his lovely wife Lydia with 3 children. He's the chairman of the Justice and Public Safety and vice chair of the powerful Senate Committee, the Rules Committee. Senator Daniel, thank you so much for calling into the show in this obviously busy, terrible time that you and your family and your neighbors are going through.
Thank Vicki and David for having me on the show and for letting me highlight the issues that we're facing out here.
Yeah, so I don't even want to lead you down the road of to what to ask. I want you to kind of just say, what would you like people to know who are listening right now more than anything else?
Well, first of all, I just want to thank all your listeners for their prayers, for everything they've donated, whether it's been, from the smallest grocery item to bringing a helicopter or a transfer truck. We appreciate it. I think we feel loved by the private sector out there. We know you guys are wanting to help us, and you've seen all the pictures of the devastation in certain areas. And, of course, one of the biggest problems we have that's widespread is widespread power outages and water system outages. So we just want to say thank you and say keep it coming, because we're going to need it for a long time.
Absolutely. And for those of us who are continuing to collect supplies, what are the real supplies? Like when I was in Statesville and I saw all of the things coming in, tons of water was being, diapers, baby formula, but there's there's other things that you guys really need. What would you suggest for folks who are collecting donations on what you guys would be the most impactful?
Well, So I can't speak for, in other words, I can't tell you like what's short and what, because I haven't seen all of Western North Carolina, but all the things you mentioned from food, MREs, water, bottled water, or the jugs of water, distilled water. People need those for CPAP. That's one thing. Pampers, cleaning supplies, Clorox wipes, baby wipes, dog food, cat food, propane bottles, or propane, the little things you hook to your grill.
Yeah.
Things like that are helpful. And so the good thing right now is that we're still in a warm period. We're in third summer, kind of. And so, but in these mountain areas, it's not going to be too long before we're getting into cold weather. And so that's going to pose other challenges.
Yeah, I agree. That's something that someone who's been working up there told me last night about. We're about 30 days away from really, really freezing temperatures up there. And so maybe we need to consider, how we can donate things like space heaters or, propane heaters or those kind of things to make sure that people stay alive. Now, Warren, you are a senator, obviously, and been serving in the Senate for quite some time now. And when things like this happen, people look to you and try to figure out, your day-to-day during this natural disaster. Tell me about some of the things that you're hearing from folks and things that you're doing, because I see a lot of concern on social media right now, a lot of criticism going around. But tell us from your perspective what's really is happening, and maybe some good and maybe some room for improvement too, so that we can dispel some of these rumors.
Well, again, I can only, I have 3 counties. I've traveled through 4 counties during the disaster, so there's obviously about 20 other counties that are affected. So I can't speak for every area.
Sure.
But it's been really inspiring to see just all the help that's been coming from across the state, from our sheriff's departments across the state. I've seen law enforcement from South Carolina that's come to help. I've seen rescue teams from Maryland, Texas, Nebraska, Wilmington, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, Chicago, LA, Florida. So it's kind of great to see the rescue teams coming from all over. And the sad part about what they're doing, of course, now is that we're kind of past most of the rescue part, and they're trying to go find loved ones that have not been found yet, which is just a sad part of their job.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've heard some of the folks that were in Hendersonville that got rescued, and they kind of told me some of the firsthand what they saw and the devastation. It's just, sadly, I believe that these numbers are going to continue to grow. And so it's tough. Now, you actually have toured your 3 counties, but you also have talked to DOT, you've talked to emergency rescue management and all that other stuff. So, I mean, I feel like you think that there is a really good concerted effort, and then maybe there was a few hiccups at the beginning, but now it seems to be rolling along pretty good. Is that your assessment of things?
Better, I think. Of course, Buncombe County has a lot of people, and when a whole county of that size loses water and power, you need a lot of commodities. And so I think in the early days, we were looking for large sources of potable water, and I think that was a little bit slow. It was probably 48 hours slow, but I think they have a good supply of potable water. But now what we're short on is non-potable water, because we don't want people flushing their toilets with water that could be used for drinking. So it's just, it seems like every day there's kind of a new challenge of things that you have to get enough of something to be able to serve 150,000 people or something.
Gosh. Now, so as you move forward to over this weekend, and I imagine you're still trying to coordinate all of these good Samaritans and coming through, but have you seen one or two of the Samaritan's Purse or Red Cross? I think you've seen them on the ground. Are those things that we could direct, or organizations we should direct folks to?
I have seen some Samaritan's Purse people in Swannanoa, and of course, that's pretty close to where Samaritan's Purse is located. So that's a good charity to donate to. I think the North Carolina Baptist Men's Mission disaster recovery. I don't know the exact name of it, but
Sure.
You guys can find it. Would be a good charity to donate to as well.
Hmm. And now this is kind of like self-serving. My girlfriend and I were, after we were in Hendersonville and handing out water and stuff and coming back down the mountain, and I was like, man, I don't have a really good like 3-day supply if something should happen in my own home. And you've lived through it, right? You had you were been without power and your parents were without power. What do you suggest to our listening audience? Like, what is like the most important thing to have in a survival kit? So in case we're all stuck in stuff like this and we're not dependent on, the government to kind of bail us out of these situations. What did you see that's been most helpful for those folks who's been stuck out there?
Well, I would say that for people who want to prepare for the next one, buy a small generator and then learn how to use it. Make sure you have grounding rod, because if you can just hook up a few appliances, you can keep your food from spoiling. And you can even, we took neighbors' foods and put it in our freezer so that we could preserve their food. And so if you can do that, most people have, you might have a week's worth of food in your freezer, but if it goes bad on the second day, then you're kind of in a bad spot. So I would say get a generator, get you some water jugs, or, I have a 55-gallon jug or a drum of drinkable water in my basement. So, and then if you do have water, like if you have water initially, it doesn't mean you're going to have water throughout the outage, because we experienced that where we had drinkable water coming out of the faucets for a few days. During that time, we stored up some of it in our bathtubs and in our drum. But then after a couple days later, they put out the notice that they put out boil notices. So if you don't have electricity or maybe propane, you can't boil it anyway. So, but you can still use it for your hygiene. But.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably a good thing to do a boil notice no matter what, because I know communication has been really hard for you guys. I mean, you're able to talk to us on a cell phone now, but at the beginning of the week, you had to actually go to a certain area to be able to do it. Are you noticing that cell phone and communication is getting better where you are? And I mean, are you able to communicate a lot better with each other?
So I live in Burke County, which is heavily affected, but not one of the worst disaster counties. And so cell phone communications are pretty good here now. When I drive deeper into the affected counties, I can basically, if I go to Swannanoa, I'll be able to text and maybe make a call, but accessing internet would be difficult.
Yeah. Yeah, that's where Starlink, I think, is becoming in more and more, and I've heard of folks, delivering that, so that's great. Warren, we only have like a minute left, so is there anything that you really want to communicate to our listening audience as these next few months go on with the Hurricane Helene relief?
I would say don't forget about us, because I've been guilty myself of, you hear about a hurricane down in eastern North Carolina, and then once the news cycle leaves within a few weeks, you kind of just, it gets to the back of your mind, and you kind of, you don't think about it. So just, there's a lot of damage up here, some of which is going to take months and months or possibly years to correct or to fix. And so, just keep thinking about us and praying for us.
Thank you. You guys are listening to Senator Warren Daniel. He has been affected and lives in the Hurricane Helene aftermath, and so I'm so grateful that you took time. I know you reached out to be on the show, and thank you so much for taking time out of your busy day to be here. And
we're listening to We're Just Saying on WSIC News. We'll be right back.
Stay with us. We'll have more of We're Just Saying with NC Senator Vicki Sawyer after this short break on 105.9, 100.7 WSIC.
Well, for the first time in a long time, we don't really have much to talk about in the weather department. And boy, isn't that nice. Mainly dry for a long time. Partly cloudy. We're up around 80 this afternoon, falling back into the mid-60s overnight. Our weekend is a dry one, but it's a warm and humid one, too. With temperatures around 80, if not some low 80s both days. If you've been in search of that crisp fall air, it's on the way. Early next week. It arrives by Tuesday. That's your forecast from the WSIC Weather Center. meteorologist Chase Myers.
Make your work easier with Eagle Rentals of Troutman and Statesville. Eagle Rentals has generators, heaters, fans, painting equipment, floor care equipment, pressure washers, lighting equipment, and lawn care equipment. Plus, Eagle Rentals has construction equipment like forklifts, bobcat loaders, backhoes, excavators, and more. Reserve online at eaglerentals.com. That's eaglerentals.com.
Looking for a large private room for your next work function? Or maybe you need a place to bring the whole family for a delicious meal? Pomodoros of Mooresville has the perfect space for your crowd. Book your next event at pomodoros.com.
Folks, here at Randy Marion Chevrolet in Statesville, we have got the brand new 2025 Chevrolet Traverse in stock, all redesigned from front to back, top to bottom, inside and out. Come see them today. We have got a great selection of these new Traverses ready for you to take home. And also, we got great discounts on our Silverado trucks. We got the regular cab, crew cab, double cabs, discounted up to $9,000 off. Great selection, Randy Marion Chevrolet in Statesville, right on I-40.
If you're a builder and you haven't went to Little Shaver's Wood Shop, you're missing all types of lumber products, hard to find woods and paneling materials that are in stock and ready to help you conquer anything the job throws your way. Locally owned, Little Shaver's Wood Shop has a friendly, knowledgeable staff to get you in, out, and on with your day. Little Shaver's Wood Shop, 3301 Salisbury Highway in Statesville. Little Shaver's Wood Shop, LILshavers.com.
Hi, this is Bob McIntosh with the McIntosh Law Firm in Davidson. Since 1997, we have been committed to providing our clients with competent, caring, and experienced legal services. Learn more at McIntoshLawFirm.com.
For over 57 years, Nelson Royals has been serving the Lake Norman, Mooresville, Statesville, and surrounding counties. Nelson Royals has work in Western clothing and over 4,000 boots and shoes in stock. Brands like Ariat, Rocky, Justin, Durango, Tony Lama, Red Wing, Thorogood, Skechers, Hey Dude, and many more. Check them out at NelsonRoyals.com.
This is a Bloomberg Money Minute. Facebook and Instagram owner Meta Platforms is upping its AI game, debuting a new artificial intelligence tool that can generate or edit videos up to 16 seconds long based on a simple text prompt. The product, called Movie Gen, can also use prompts to edit an existing video or even use a photo to create a video featuring a real person. Access is limited now. A wide rollout is expected next year. It's great news for the economy, not so great for Wall Street traders who placed big bets on another big Fed Reserve interest rate cut. And that helps explain why an early rally for stocks has turned into a murky market. Right now, the Dow is little changed. NASDAQ cutting its earlier gain to 0.5%, S&P up 0.25%. After the September employment report today showed U.S. employers adding 254,000 jobs to payrolls, far ahead of forecasts. Also, the Labor Department has upwardly revised job totals from the prior 2 months. The new unemployment rate is unexpectedly down to 4.1%. Andrew O'Day, Bloomberg Radio.
It's We're Just Saying with North Carolina Senator Vicki Sawyer on 105.9, 100.7 WSIC. Local starts here.
Welcome back to We're Just Saying on WSIC News with Senator Vicki Sawyer and David. If you'd like to be part of the show, 844-STUDIO-4. We are still streaming live on the WSIC News app and all the social media platforms. So, great to hear from Senator Daniel
as always,
and as what's going on up there. But just sort of reinforcing what we talked about in the first segment. Just a lot of help is needed up there, and I know that FEMA's on the ground now. I know that that's causing some issues, but I mean, like you said at the outset, there's no really efficient way to get these things right off the ground. I mean, it takes a lot of coordination. It's a lot of people. I mean, so I get it. But I think the main thing from that, keep sending aid, keep doing what you can to assist, because it's going to be needed for a while. Yeah.
And, if you do come across instances like that, it is okay to reach out to your elected representatives. Maybe don't slam them on social media, but if you want to be helpful, don't be outrageous.
Yeah.
If you do see a absolute need, email the offices or call your local representative, ask them if this is true, and go through that way to actually be helpful. But I have seen some folks who, in look at me moments, like screaming about, certain agencies that aren't doing the job. I get it. There are problems, and we will escalate those problems through the proper channels to get the most efficient. But now when people are out there broadcasting some of these things that may or may not be true, it's actually hurting the very effort that needs to be done in order to deliver things, because now all of a sudden you've got all these people across the United States who are flooding these call centers because they're complaining because they saw something on social media. That is not helpful. Like, it's just not helpful. But you know what is helpful?
What?
The joy in my heart after I saw JD Vance.
Yeah, the vice presidential debate. That was actually one for the ages, to be fair.
What
because
a breath of fresh air. I mean, now Waltz is a total dingbat, right? I get that. But just the tone and the tenor and the actual policy discussion between the two, and not just yelling and screaming at each other, but actually talking through things. It was like so peaceful, and it just fed my inner political nerd, because I was like, this is the type of civil discourse that we should be having.
Well, and you saw a real contrast, right? I mean, you were able to, the difference between it and the presidential debate was stark, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because really the presidential debate boiled down to, Donald Trump taking on the moderators more than he really took on Kamala Harris, because they kept inserting themselves. And, and to be fair, the CBS moderators, despite saying at the outset they would not be doing their fact-checking live, couldn't help themselves, because liberals can't. The news media hates Donald Trump. They don't like JD Vance. They do not want them to win. They can't help themselves but insert themselves even after saying they wouldn't. And to be fair, I'll give JD Vance credit. He handled it masterfully, because he pushed right back on them, letting them know, no, you're wrong. What I'm stating is correct, and what he said was correct.
Right.
And multiple fact checks after the fact have said that he was correct. But I think the moment for me was, when they asked Wallace why he lied about being at, Tiananmen Square and everything in China. And now look, I mean, here's the thing, man. There's some things you can lie about.
Yeah.
But I mean, I don't get it.
That's a whopper.
That's a whopper right there.
Is that a white lie? That's a whopper.
And his answer was, well, I'm kind of a lone kid. Okay. All right. I mean, I guess that's a defense, but me too stupid to tell the truth. It's like, that's who I want for my vice president. One breath away from the nuclear codes.
Is that like a Dan Quayle? Is he like the new Dan Quayle?
Yeah, honestly, he's worse. I mean, the worst thing Dan Quayle did was he had trouble spelling potato. But like he never outright lied or embellished, as they like to say. That's a nice way to say he's full of it. But I mean, it just some of the things, and it really was amazing to me how well JD Vance did.
Oh, impressive.
And he didn't come across as beating a baby dolphin or anything like that, which really could have happened.
Sure.
Because Walls was just that bad in some segments. But I appreciated the tone. I appreciated the discourse, and even JD Vance looked at Walls and said, brother, I don't envy the task you have here. You have to basically blame Donald Trump for everything that's wrong right now while it's your running mate that's been in office for 4 years. That's not an easy thing to do. I mean, I don't envy your position there. But it was so funny. The split screens did not do the Democratic side any favor, because JD Vance is up there talking and Walls is shaking his head like this. Oh yeah, agreeing and everything like that. And so, but I enjoyed it. I mean, now, does it move the needle much? Probably not.
No.
I think it probably reinforces what a lot of people I think already knew.
Yeah.
Going into that. But it was very satisfying to watch.
Yeah. Now bring all that stuff back down. Okay, we do have a caller on the line.
Oh, we do have a caller.
Sure.
Hi, welcome to We're Just Saying on WSIC News. You're on with Senator Sawyer. Good morning.
Hello, David and Senator Sawyer. How y'all doing?
Doing great, sir. How are you?
Sir.
All right. What we called for, Senator Sawyer said some good stuff a while ago. I tell you what, y'all know what y'all doing up in there. She said, I don't have to tell you what you said. You know what you said when you were saying that these people need to quit running their mouths, saying stuff that they don't know what they're talking about. Mm-hmm. And I'm not going to be too rich about it, but I mean, you know what I'm saying. But what I'm saying, people don't need to cause more problems that's already occurring.
Yes, sir.
Like she said, they need to call their representative, find out what they need, what they're trying to talk about, and be sure about it before they open their mouth. Because we don't want to cause more conflict than what's already is going on. That's the only thing I want to say.
Thank you. I'm saying thank you for the call.
And thank you, Senator Sawyer, and you and David for doing that and saying that, because somebody needed that.
Oh,
and before it gets started. And then also, David said, about that J.D. Vance, he really handled himself real well. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm telling you, man, you know what I'm saying? I'm going to say this and I'll be done.
Yes, sir.
The predestined one, Donald Trump and J.D. Vance, is the ones that should be there. They're running this country. And that's all I'm going to say.
All right. I agree. Thank you for your call. Thank you.
Thank you so much for the call.
So,
I very much appreciate it. And one of the things that, I think, I not to belabor the point, but also need to remember that when you are passing along these TikTok videos, going off on Facebook on things that may or not be true, you actually can be hurting the relief effort because people will see that, believe that, and maybe not do what they intentionally, it's like, everything's getting stolen and this, that, and the third. And so I'm not going to continue to give. I'm not going to continue to go get water and take it to these sites. And it heightens things that are already heightened, right? I mean, people up there, many of them are in desperation mode right now. Right. And so you don't want to amplify that by passing along these things that, that some of these sensationalistic things that, may or may not be true, but like you said, get clarification, make sure that it's true, because all you're doing, you're not helping things by continuing to perpetuate things that are sensationalized and maybe not true.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's exactly the opposite of what you want to do. And it's okay to not post something. Sometimes silent. It's okay to not post something. I mean, get out of your phone and get into somewhere and volunteer and help. And I know there's a lot of folks who are doing that lately. But let's talk a little bit of politics. In the wake of this terrible disaster, there is a little political stuff going on, and there was some polling that came out.
Yeah, we're only about 3 weeks from an election, 4 weeks from an election.
Early voting starts in early voting starts in a week, 2 weeks. Oh my gosh. But we looked at the polling, and I took the one from ECU polling just because my daughter goes to ECU, and of course I appreciate
even
what they're
though
doing.
You will not be cheering for ECU on Saturday as they play the mighty Charlotte 49ers. You are representing today.
I've got my UNCC shirt on today. Go Niners. So there has been some devastating political news from our gubernatorial candidate, Mark Robinson. And he's had tons of campaign committee quit, his chief staff, there's just a lot of turmoil. And so the fear is that turmoil going to hurt the president? And at least that was my fear, right? We kind of knew that Mark Robinson wasn't going to win a long time ago. I felt like,
he was double digits down in the polls before these revelations and things like that. And obviously, based off the latest polls, he's anywhere from 20 points down to 19 points down to 16 points down. But the good news was in the ECU poll, Donald Trump was up too. And so it's obviously not having the effect, up ballot.
Hopefully it's not blending over. I did see that in different districts, the Josh Stein and Mark Robinson divide in where we really need is suburban voters. And that is the greatest polling. It's because they're the more, I guess they consume more news maybe in this area, and they've been hitting on for that. So those 28, margin district or 20 margin polling discrepancies between Stein and Robinson are coming in the very areas that we need the most for Republicans statewide. Because what really, really worries me is the council of state. The things that are going to affect you and businesses are those things that we have some of the best Republican council of state candidates that I can ever remember. We have a stellar team who is going to be hopefully leading these agencies. And the fear is that because of one person, it could hurt them all. So I want you guys to make sure to know to look at those council of state races closely.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%, especially the AG. Dan Bishop running for AG, need him to win that race. Need him. You're listening to We're Just Saying on WSIC News. We'll be right back.
There's more We're Just Saying with North Carolina Senator Vicky Sawyer on the way from 105.9, 100.7 WSIC.
Well, for the first time in a long time, we don't really have much to talk about in the weather department. And boy, isn't that nice. Mainly dry for a long time. Partly cloudy. We're up around 80 this afternoon, falling back into the mid-60s overnight. Our weekend is dry and humid one, too, with temperatures around 80, if not some low 80s both days. If you've been in search of that crisp fall air, it's on the way early next week. It arrives by Tuesday. That's your forecast from the WSIC Weather Center. Meteorologist Chase Myers.
Here is your WSIC community calendar. Brookdale Village in Huntersville presents their free concert series Live Under the Oaks on Friday. The Village is open all day for shopping and dining, with Ben Gatlin taking the stage powered by Waves Entertainment at 6 p.m. Bring your chairs and enjoy on-site beverages from Red Rocks. Live Under the Oaks with Ben Gatlin kicks off at 6 p.m. Friday. The popular Piedmont Healthcare Friday After 5 concert series offers free entertainment to residents, neighbors, and visitors in downtown Statesville. This Friday, the Megan Doss concert will be held on West Broad Street in front of Mitchell Community College from 6 p.m. to 8:30. Beer, wine, soft drinks, and food will be available for purchase beginning at 5 p.m. Bring your chairs and enjoy a night of music from country singer Megan Doss at Friday After 5 in downtown Statesville. NASCAR returns to Charlotte Motor Speedway for their annual fall weekend in October on the Roval. The Xfinity Series holds the Drive for the Cure 250 on Saturday, October 12th. The Cup Series competes in the Bank of America Roval 400 on Sunday, October 13th. Weekend ticket packages as well as daily tickets are available. Also, check out deals for military service members, college students, suites, the Champions Pavilion, the Indoor Clubhouse, Terrace Box, 4-packs, and more. Don't miss any of the entertainment, including Eli Young Band and Tim Duggar concerts before racing's royalty duels for Roval supremacy. Visit CharlotteMotorspeedway.com for information, tickets, and details. To keep up with all the events happening around the community and much more, including amazing local deals, download the WSIC News app today.
The Renaissance Festival is back Saturdays and Sundays, October 5th through November 24th. Eat, drink, be merry at the Renaissance Festival. Tickets available online only at renfestinfo.com. Don't miss it!
Now more We're Just Saying with North Carolina Senator Vicky Sawyer on 105.9, 100.7 WSIC.
Welcome back to We're Just Saying on WSIC News Radio with Senator Vicky Sawyer and David. Like to be part of the show, 844-STUDIO-4. We are still streaming live on the WSIC News app and all the social media platforms. So a little bit of good news today. The strike, longshoreman strike, appears to have been short-lived.
You mean they read the room and realized that during one of the largest natural disasters that may not be the best idea, and Christmas coming, it may not be the best idea to strike right now?
So generally, as a general rule, public sentiment in your favor is always a good thing.
Yes.
And and I got to tell you, the president of the longshoremen that you see on the news and everything like that, he comes across as, I think, as I saw a guy on Scott Jennings, I think on CNN, describing him as like a Bond villain. Basically, we're going to shut this place down. You're going to know how important we are. Nothing's coming in. We're going to strike, and then in the process of trying to get aid up to hurricane stricken areas with another hurricane's brewing, and getting don't know what will happen with them, but there's more out there. And then obviously Christmas coming, I think not the best time to be doing this, but it looks like they've averted it. So my conspiracy theory was, I had a conspiracy theory. I thought they were just going to do it, and then Kamala was going to sweep in and be the one to get the strike averted. But apparently that something happened that they got off the lines pretty quick, apparently. But that had been my conspiracy, is that she was going to sweep in. And now there's one thing. Here's the deal. Could anyone reasonably believe that in a situation like that, Kamala Harris was the key?
Yeah.
Okay.
She did so well on the border.
So well on the border, right? She was what we need. She was the hero we needed to avert the longshore strike. Obviously, it didn't happen, but that had been my conspiracy theory that I thought was going to happen.
So I, when I first got this gig as the co-chair of transportation, I took a tour of Eastern North Carolina. I just got in my car by myself and set up tours. And so I went to the Wilmington and Moorhead Port and to some of the inland ports in Rocky Mount and some trails and assets that way. But, growing up in North Carolina, you go, well, we are not a unionized state. So how are unions allowed to do this? And we saw the same situation with CATS in Charlotte when they were trying to strike because they're unionized. Well, huzzah, if an entity accepts federal money, the federal money has this catch that you have to have unionized labor. And so the longshoremen, for understanding, they have a couple main duties. when a ship comes into port, they only longshoremen by contract law or whatever contract can unload the first 2 levels of the port or of the cargo. But then actually the crane operators and the folks in the port do everything else. They also are responsible for repairing the trailers that the tractor trailers go on to. So it's like those 2, I saw it in Savannah, I saw it in Wilmington, I saw it, on my port tours. Because of course, who doesn't want to tour a port? Actually, if you ever get a chance to tour a port, it is phenomenally
Well, you got to
cool.
go up in the crane.
I got to go up in the crane. I went to Savannah. Just the logistics of the movement and how they do it's so stinking interesting. So that's why we have unionized labor and longshoremen. And so part of the Wilmington port and Moorhead port is we have a port board. And Governor Cooper actually appointed this president, George L. Washington, to be on the Port Authority board as a unionized person. And then he was out there working with and doing and making like hot dogs and food and all this other stuff for those who were like striking. Mm-hmm. And he's on the board. It was the Senate chairs of transportation. We wrote a letter, calling that behavior out and saying like, look, this is completely understand the difference between labor and employer, but you should not have and cross those lines when it comes to that kind of behavior. So, we're trying to call out like just corruption, or maybe not corruption, but just things where it should be, but.
Well, but at least, like I said, at least it's been averted for now. So,
until January.
Hopefully things can get worked out coming in January.
Yeah.
But something interesting you sent me over in your crack show prep that I got 10 minutes before air. You bet there. So there had been a lawsuit.
Yes, NIL.
NIL lawsuit for high school athletes.
Yes.
That I think it was the Board of Education had ruled that they cannot do their NIL.
Yeah, but they tried to blame the General Assembly.
Oh, of course. But apparently a judge has overturned that now, so high school athletes can participate in NIL now.
Yeah, and remember, these are just public school athletes. The private school athletes were able to do it. When we changed the governance over high school athletics and gave more power to the board, they are the ones that were responsible for enacting this rule to allow kids to go into a contract for their name, image, and likeness. Now, this is like in 20 other states or something like that. So it's not like we're the first person, but they had ample time to get those NIL rules established. And I thought it was going to be in force for this year, and lo and behold, a month and a half or 2 months before the school system year started, the State Board of Education said, no, we're not going to do it this year. Well, we may do it next year. So they punted. Well, of course, there's a young man out of Grimsley, which I used to play against in high school at Parkland Mustang. And he is like one of the top recruits and going to the University of Tennessee in the nation. And he got an NIL deal. I mean, these are game changers, and you start thinking about like, what do high school athletes need money for? And there are concerns about corruption and stuff. But then I also think about like as a former athlete, I would spend probably 4 hours, 5 hours every day playing, practicing, lifting weights. If I wasn't an athlete, I could go get a job, right? I could have worked at, minimum wage somewhere, but I could have gotten a job. But when you're an athlete, you can't. So this is just an opportunity for them to get paid for, the time that they're putting in, and they will get paid later on. And so I can understand this, the conversation on both sides of those things, but the state board didn't enact in the time. And so the courts told them how it did, but it's how government should work.
Absolutely.
Right?
No, and
checks and balances.
That's why I have the checks and balances. But I will say that, I do, reflect on, the NIL thing and high school athletes. When I think about the money I left on the table by not being able to do,
I shouldn't have laughed. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have laughed.
Why are you laughing? I mean, my stellar high school athletic career.
Yeah, what was it?
Baseball? No, I did not. I did not play baseball. I played football and I played golf. I was not great at either of them, to be fair. But it's not about how good you were, right? I mean, it's about how it's not just about how good you were; it's how good you looked, right? And so, like, I feel like that. I left a lot of money on the table. I really feel like I did. You probably left, tens of dollars on the table, like me, by not having NIL.
Oh my gosh! Yes, this is well before women's sports has escalated so greatly. Well before Caitlin Clark. And actually, I was looking at. Did you see where there are? Oh gosh, what is it? JMU. that has a transgender female volleyball player on their squad.
It
and
was
like
San Jose State, I think.
San Jose State. That's
and
it.
And a bunch of schools have started writing letters into the conference that they will not play them.
Yeah, and they're dropping like flies. And then apparently
As they should.
I know.
As they should. I mean, we saw here in North Carolina when a man spikes a volleyball into a girl's face.
Yeah.
That and my daughter plays volleyball.
Yeah.
And so the idea of playing against a guy, there's real injury that can occur there, and as we've seen. And so good for these schools that are saying no, we're not going to play you, because I mean, really, it's the cynical nature of it aside, from allowing it, it's just not safe.
Right.
And we've talked about that multiple times on this show. You obviously the Women in Sports Act, you were key down in Raleigh of getting something passed for things like that. So I mean, it really is crazy.
Yeah, I know. It really, really is. You know what else is crazy?
What?
Someone pointed out that they listen. Thank you for the loyal listeners to the show. And they said, you have all these people on that are having elections, and you promote their websites and you talk about them, but you never talk about you.
That's true. You don't.
I don't. So can you give me a minute to talk about me?
It's your show. well, let's be fair. It's not that you don't talk about you. It's just that you don't talk about your election. And you don't talk about where people can find information about you. Now, we talk about you. Let's be fair. We talk about you.
Do we really?
Yes, we really do.
I don't know. Do we do it enough?
Obviously not. Obviously not if we're getting complaints that you don't talk about you enough.
Well, there's been several national planted stories about my race, and so you can see it in the Washington Post. I think the New York Times too. It's New York Times, definitely Washington Post, and they're talking about this whole thing about how this district is slated so a Democrat can't win, and oh my gosh, poor, like this whole thing. I'm like, man, you can hate on the game, or you can talk about helping people and doing the right thing for policy, regardless if you're Republican or Democrat. When you get elected, you represent everybody. And let's just be honest with you, we are, by the Constitution, have to draw our boundaries based on communities of interest. The town of Davidson is on Lake Norman. The town of Cornelius is on Lake Norman, as well as Mooresville. That is a community of interest. Yeah. And so it's just like the weirdest thing about how you're going to, anyways. So I do and will need your support for my upcoming election. And I know a lot of you folks who are so kind out there. If you want to volunteer for my campaign, I need folks to help me at the polls. Please reach out to me, senatorsawyer@gmail.com, or go on my website and fill out a form. If you want to financially donate, I would love that help as well. SawyerNC.com, or just Google my name and look, and you can donate. And I would appreciate each and every one of your support. Right now, as horrible as Hurricane Helene is, and you hate to talk about politics, there is an election coming. And so my goal as a Republican who will likely win is likely some things could happen. I may not win, but things are looking good so far. But my job is to support those Republicans like Warren Daniel and Ralph Heiss and Tim Moffitt, who are in these Helene ravaged areas that aren't able to contribute now, because how are they going to raise money, right? For their who's going to give a political politician money for their campaign during the worst, So my job is, because I'm part of a team, is to pick up where my teammates can and to contribute where I can. So I would appreciate your support. Definitely want your help handing out polling cards on election day. Yeah. And you're going to do it too, David, right?
Yes, I will. Are you going to do that on election day?
We should do a radio show. Are we allowed to do a radio show live from the elections?
I don't know. That's something that our crack research team here at WSIC News can research.
We should do
But let's be fair to the national media who wrote those stories about gerrymandering in your race.
Yeah.
There is no way to draw this district where a Democrat can win. Let's just be fair. There is no way to draw it in which a Democrat can win. It's Iredell County, folks. It's just not going to happen. Thanks, everybody, for listening to We're Just Saying. Have a great weekend.